Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Your boys, Jack and Dave, here, giving our reactions to our season predictions from the very early stages of this campaign. I must say, from what I can tell, some absolute bangers and some absolute howlers, which is what you usually get with season predictions. But let us know, everybody, what your thoughts are on our original predictions, maybe our revisionism, which will probably come up at some stage. Me and Dave trying to explain, where we went wrong or how we're so smart, that sort of thing. So let us know in the comments your favorite ones. Smash the like button for us, please, as well. And also, if you want to become a member and support the channel, there's so much coming. There's so much stuff coming up this summer. So I really would encourage that if you would like to support us further. But let's get straight into it, Dave. And we started with a very easy question because we're Spurs, right? And it's not been guaranteed with recent managers. We asked the question, will Ange finish the season? We both predicted yes. And I'm very glad that we were right.
No, 100%. I think on the basis of it was that we just couldn't continuing sacking managers every single season. We had to start building some sort of project under some manager, and it looks like we got our wish.
It looks like we got our wish. I can't really add much further to that. I don't think it was that complicated of a question. I just think it was really something if you wanted to go real, kind of hot take or real doom and gloom. I guess if you wanted to say no, you well and could have. But Ange did survive the season. This is a more interesting one to go about, Dave. I think we have to quickly say that you can't take the glory. You said to me ahead of time you weren't going to revise, you weren't going to, you weren't going to lie to the people because someone could have called you on it. Maybe watch back the video and realize that you didn't actually go for fifth. You meant to type 10th, so this was a typo, I believe, in our season prediction. So, care to explain yourself where you went with 10th and kind of maybe sad you didn't go for fifth because you would have been spot on.
Yeah, my initial prediction would have been spot on. I actually went for fifth, thinking we had Harry Kane, and I remember Harry Kane was sold, so I quickly changed my prediction on this one. I had a fear: new goalkeeper, new back line. Your best creator and goal scorer taken out of the team. Would it come back to bite you? Look, what I didn't probably take into account is that the new system would probably pick up more points than what I thought. I thought Ange might have had a bit of a rocky period this season, and it wasn't as rocky as I first imagined. So, but look, Jack, that's where the honesty comes in, right? I could have just sat here, took the applaudits, pretended that fifth happened because I know you didn't go back to watch the video. So, I could have sat here and lied. I didn't. I was honest. So, cane me in the comments below. But on this one, I'm happy to be completely wrong.
Usually Spurs fans are too honest, I think, in most situations, and Dave is probably being guilty of that there. I've gone for sixth, and actually, I don't blame you really, right? With the news of Harry Kane and also with someone who was originally so right about the value of him and how much we will be missing him. That does sort of explain, right, your big drop off in the prediction. Luckily, we did punch above our weight, I think, with that
Yeah.
loss, right? But you could still say I don't really blame you. I think considering how much, I'd look back at some of the logic you were using, and I bet that'd be some of the things that people would still actually complain about to this day with the team, despite us
Mm.
finishing as high as fifth. So a very interesting prediction there from yourself. I went for sixth because I'm a
Yeah.
happy clapper and because I also wanted Europa League. I remember, I think if I
Yeah.
were to go back to my prediction, I'm just a big fan of the Europa League. Felt like it was very appropriate for Postecoglou to actually achieve that instead of achieving as far as Champions League. I'm not even sure if in my original prediction I thought he would even get as high as the Champions League. That just would have been well above my expectations. But I did think most Spurs managers within their first season or two, they're usually capable of getting around this sixth place. And my lifetime as a Spurs fan, Dave, this has sort of been our bread and butter. The sixth, seventh kind of range is where we usually have finished in my lifetime as a Spurs fan. It's where my comfort lies. And I kind of thought that would be a not realistic target for Ange, because I think it was a huge achievement to get as high as sixth. But yeah, I thought that would be like a baseline, sort of where Spurs always seem to end up kind of thing.
Mm. No, look, you weren't too far wrong at all, If United or Chelsea would have been better, maybe your sixth prediction would have been absolutely bang on. But, I think we were the lucky recipient that United fell apart and Chelsea fell apart. So,
Indeed.
look, we're in Europa League, and that's all that matters, Jack. We've got European football back, which is what we asked for.
I achieved what we wanted. We achieved what we wanted. And now let's embarrass ourselves with how far we thought we would go in the FA Cup. I went as far as the semifinals. Once again, probably a bit of happy clapper influence going into this one, just thinking, you know what? Cups, we need to be taking advantage of these. Something that Ange, I think, obviously kind of dropped the ball on, as well as the team. It's not entirely on Ange, but just to collectively drop the ball in both of the cups this season. Dave, you went for the quarters here. I went as far as the semifinals. I think we might as well, if the Carabao Cup slide is afterwards, might as well just combine these two. We went for the finals. So would you like to explain these embarrassing takes and our happy clapping? Because I think you really just went full happy clapper yourself with this finals prediction. Why is it that you thought the Carabao Cup again would be our competition this year compared to the FA Cup? Because the
Look,
quarters is an embarrassing knockout. I will say you were spot on about that.
yeah, look, I wasn't too far wrong with the quarters in the FA Cup, if only we could have gotten by City, we probably could have went all the way to the final, which is sad in a way. But look, when it came to the Carabao Cup, Jack, I just thought, teams in Europe, a lot of fixtures around with the Premier League and stuff like that, could we take advantage of that? And look, we didn't. Ange Postecoglou, gave a complete different 11 a run out against Fulham. I'm not going to sit here and complain. I completely understand why. And a lot of them players that played in that game are gone or nowhere near the team and due to be gone this summer. So, you would say it's a worthy exercise, but yeah, maybe I was a bit hijacked. I got too happy with the happy clap in there. I think, high on life.
I think I rub off on you too much in that regard once I start feeding those kind of, bits of optimism, bits of delusion to you. Again, everybody, I'm going to look back, see what I said, but I can't really say that there was much real rhyme or logic really with it. I think it was just me being exceptionally optimistic and exceptionally just hopeful, really. And that's usually what I do with most of my predictions. Even you've heard me on pre-match buildups in the past, people, where I'll probably give 1,000 reasons why I think we actually might lose. And then at the end, I'll say 3-0 to the mighty Spurs. It's just sort of me. I'll find plenty of reasons to think, we can struggle, but I just can't ever imagine, anything but glory for this beautiful football club, and have once again embarrassed myself with my expectations and with some of my delusions there. FA Cup, I just hope next season we give that one a better go. I think with the Carabao Cup, it's not really as well celebrated. I think if Spurs were to go much further into the FA Cup, we could really take a lot of advantage from that. But yeah, you're about to say something, Dave?
Yeah, I just think as well. I remember watching it back that we were going off the logic that we might actually take the domestic cup seriously because
Yes,
we had no
for
sort of European football. Turns out we didn't quite take it as seriously as we wanted.
And I don't want to get too bogged down in this because we've done it all season, but you feel like it's not entirely on Ange, and that was our kind of feeling. Where yes, in the Carabao Cup, he went with a different lineup, but I still maintain he had to go with something different just to see which players he can keep, which players he
Mm.
can trust. Just had to be done. There weren't really that many fixtures he could really choose to go with that type of experiment, and it's also on the players. Like we kind of usually give them that, we exempt them of responsibility in these kind of games, and you could look at the FA Cup as another example of just players not really showing up, despite there being, for the most part, pretty strong squads. Burnley, we barely, got by them.
Yeah.
Man City, I think we gave it a good go, but the finishing wasn't there. It just felt like it was a bit on the players as well, not even on Ange.
No, 100%. And, like this is the thing. There's a lot made around Ange and every manager really that takes charge of these cup games. They use it as an opportunity to maybe rest some players and give some squad players the opportunity. And these are squad players that many fans are calling for. When they come in, they let them down. They go straight to the manager. Why did he make all these changes? And it's like, well, hang on. In order to be able to compete on all fronts, you have to rely on the squad. If anyone watches the 99 documentary on Amazon Prime, Roy Keane and most other people speak about it. The reason why they got the treble is because they had a squad and they could rely on the backup players to come in cup games and league games and stuff like that and do a job for them. And that's where we need to get to. And that's why we always keep failing in these cup competitions, because the minute you rely on other players, they just let you down. We need to, this is why I stress the importance, Jack, that we need to stick behind the manager, stick behind Ange and build a proper squad for him. Now, I know Timo Werner hasn't exactly alleviated them fears whatsoever. But look, we still got the rest of the window to go. And hopefully Daniel Levy and the board have watched the 99 documentary and realised they need to build a squad if they want trophies.
I know I annoy a lot of the members with kind of my Hoiberg, farewell videos and stuff that will be coming up this summer. But just luckily, I will be sparing you guys my reaction video to driving home with Timo, because I decided to watch back that video of Spurs driving Timo back to his house. And I forced the missus actually to watch it with me. That's how cruel I am. But we're going to go quickly into biggest win of the season. I was so close this one here, Dave. 4-0 to Newcastle at home as well. God, if only we didn't, if we learned how to do clean sheets this last season, I would have been bang on with this prediction, but it ended up
Mm.
being 4-1. So close, Dave. I was really frustrated by this one. I thought this could have been an amazing prediction.
Yeah, and when you made the prediction, you had revenge in mind. We got the revenge, but unfortunately, they took it back. So we have to go there next season with the same sort of revenge mission in mind, Jack.
Exactly.
Spot on there. Look, I was a bit off on mine. I think Luton probably worked out to be a bit trickier than what most people thought they would be in the Premier
Yeah,
League. Yeah, I
definitely.
thought they'd come up. They didn't really invest much. I thought, no problem. We should sort of, at some stage, whether it's the fixture earlier on the season or one later on the season, we should whip them. I'd argue, the second one, we probably should have scored a lot more by them than what we did. The first one was a 1-0, and actually, we done very well to get out of there with the 1-0 as well. Saying that, though, Richarlison let me down that day because he had 2 or 3 early chances that he
That's
spurned.
fair.
So, on another day, I probably would have got my score prediction. It didn't happen, but look, it is what it is. I expect it next season.
Not a bad prediction at all. And Luton Town, I think everybody expected them to get tonked, but it was actually in the early like half of the season. It just wasn't the case. They would
Mm,
lose, but they would only lose by 1 or 2 goals, and they would always keep it pretty close and keep it a very competitive game, and always made it an exciting, entertaining game as
mm,
well. So I think they just defied everybody's expectations. I think that was a very kind of go-to pick, but sadly they just um, fooled us there. Goal of the season winner, both great predictions here, but I'm not sure, Dave, if either are going to win it. Monor Solomon had that terrific, I think that game against Burnley, right? And he was a
yeah.
part of some really great goals in that, really part of the build-up play, if I remember, part of those really great runs and just attacking play. But that's the only bits that we ever saw of Monor Solomon.
Mm,
And I think if I were to remember your logic, I don't want to steal words for you, but the guy does score bangers from outside the box, right?
mm,
So was that kind of your thinking with Solomon? And it was
mm,
similar for me with Sonny. I was thinking curlers, big whipped, kind of crosses or just that sort of thing. Just delicious kind of, outside the
mm.
foot, kind of finishes. These guys are just good finishers.
Mm. No, when it came to Manor Solomon, Jack, look, I've watched a lot of them at Shakhtar, and he produced a few great goals for Fulham as well when he was there on
Right.
loan the previous season. Unfortunately, and I did say this in the video, he needs to stay injury free. He didn't do that, and that's where it probably let
Spot
himself
on.
down and let me down. But I think this is the problem. I think there's a real player in there. I'm just not sure whether injuries are going to curtail his career or hamper his career on how good he could be. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, I think it's starting to look like that. He's had 2 seasons now. He was injured for large parts of the season for Fulham last season and also missing most of the majority of this season. So I think he could be one that's probably gone in the summer,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But look, it's sad because we've seen glimpses against Burnley of what he could do. People
Yeah.
say it's only Burnley, but we struggled against him in the FA Cup. We only bet them 1-0 at our place, and when we played them at their place, we bet them 5-2, and he was instrumental in it, constantly picking the right pass in the final third. It's a shame, really, that he didn't stay fit all season because I think he would have contributed a
Yeah.
lot more than what he did.
I'd only quickly add that he also is just different to Johnson and Werner. He's more technically gifted, right? Maybe not as quick or as speedy as either of them, but I think he
Mm,
has a bit more technical kind of play and has a really good first touch. Where, right, we would see Werner, Johnson occasionally balloon it out of bounds, kind of thing. It's just you don't
mm.
see that with Solomon, so it could have been a different story for sure. With Sonny, I don't need to add much further. I think people can understand why I went for him. He's almost always the guy that
Yeah,
scores our
every
our
year.
our goals of the season. But it was the defenders this year. It was your choice of Porro, Mickey, or Romero. I think those were the
Romero.
candidates for the best ones. Romero for me as well, but definitely none of the forwards, I think, for goal of
Mm.
the season. How many clean sheets will Vic keep? Dave, I think we went for way too many. Is that right?
Do you know what? We actually based it off what Hugo Lloris kept the season before. I think he kept 11 or 12 the season before. And I think we based it off that. We looked at the back line. We said better back line, better goalkeeper. We should keep more clean sheets. What we didn't take into account was how high we were going to play the line, and how shit the forward line was really going to be. The fact that the ball kept on turning back on these guys
Yeah.
and sort of leaving them in exposed positions. But look, Jack, I'm going to say the same this season because I expect to see improvement.
Well, Vic, he had a stellar season, so it doesn't even really matter how many clean sheets he had. He had an
Mm.
unbelievable season. Flop of the season. This one's in the thumbnail, Dave. Thought this one's great because yours is I'm not really
Yeah,
sure
man.
why you actually even went for Dyer. I think it's probably just more that he would get exposed in this system, if I'm trying to remember correctly what you thought. With Poro, for me, where it came from was I just felt like it was worries about him defensively. I knew that he was very
You got
good in
sucked in.
possession, and I got sucked into the bad hype around his poor end to the season. I think defensively, yes, we know what he can do going forward. We knew that towards the tail end of last season. The season under Conte and under Mason and Stellini, but just was still unconvinced, I think, with him in one-on-one situations. I think I felt like as well with this new system, he was going to be even more exposed, didn't have as much protection as he would have in kind of a back three, back five kind of system. And just really, depended on whether Pedro Porro could step up. If I remember correctly, too, in the preseason, he didn't even fill me with too much confidence. I think he was making some mistakes
Mm.
actually defensively in some of the preseason games, as was Sergio Reguilon. So I went early, and I'm glad that I got embarrassed with this one, Dave. This is an absolute howler.
Look, you got sucked in. I understand it. There's a lot of questions around Porro and Adoji at the time. But look, I was always one of Pedro's prisoners, and that's why I didn't put him in there, because I backed him to be able to go and do the work. I remember saying to you on the video, actually, that I think this guy will be able to adapt to the defensive side of things because of his mentality and because of his work ethic. And fair play to him, he has done that. Now, when it comes to Dyer, in a Tottenham context, I got it absolutely spot on. He got completely exposed by Ange Postecoglou, and he effed him out of this club, which I'm absolutely grateful for, along with Davinson Sanchez. But I know some sad people are going to come into the comments and be like, well, look, Dave, technically he wasn't a flop because he went to Bayern and made a Champions League semi-final. But in a Tottenham perspective, a complete flop. I got it
The
right.
dire battles with Dave to be continued.
He
They will
lasted,
still
what, four
forever live
months
on.
under Ange? 4 months?
I mean, he was very obviously not one of Andrew's favorites, that's for sure. This is an interesting one. Most improved player. I went for Richarlison. Dave went for Basuma. I'd say it was flipped, where Basuma in the first 10 games, if you looked at the first 10 games, you would have thought Dave is a genius. You would have been like, God, this guy absolutely nailed it. He looks like one of the most improved players we've ever seen after what was a very underwhelming season under Antonio Conte and the other managers. With Richarlison, he had a really poor start, I remember, to the campaign, right? His hold-up play wasn't nearly as good as it was towards the end of the season. His finishing, while we already, I think, still have debates over whether it's actually good enough, really was much poorer in the beginning of the season than it was towards the tail end. So, Dave, it's almost like a flipped thing where Richarlison had a much better end to the season, or at least like took a while for him
Mm.
to show how this could have been a good pick by myself. And then with yours, absolute banger from the get-go, and then kind of, faded maybe away. So it's like we were half right with this one. What do you think?
Well, look, two things on this one, Jack. First of all, now people must understand we could have went for someone like Romero, but we at the time we said we were going to pick out of players who had really had a really bad campaign the season
Wow.
before.
Made it
So
hard on
that's why we
ourselves.
haven't picked like a Romero or somebody like that, because we already felt they were a decent player at Tottenham Hotspur. So that's why we've come up with these two names. Second of all, I think you done me unfairly here, Jack, to be brutally honest, because you did pick a guy that could only improve off the back of his first season. There was no scope for him to get any worse. So I
Dang.
feel like you maybe pulled a fast one here, but I'll allow
Yeah,
it.
too clever.
Look, when it comes to Basuma, I'd argue he has improved. I think he's shown what he can offer this team if you can keep him in that right frame of mind compared to underneath Antonio Conte. And he's got a lot more game time this season than what he did underneath Antonio Conte. However, from that Luton game, he lost a run of himself and he really let me down. But it does show, for those who say I hate Basuma, clearly isn't the case, is it?
No, I mean, Dave, you've been absolutely his biggest protector. I think he should be thanking you. One day, maybe Dave might show up and assume as dancing videos and whatnot, or maybe on that lovely Instagram of his. Dave is his biggest fan now. But yeah, I'd say very interesting that we kind of made it harder on ourselves. And I think we pretty much like had a good basis and good ideas here. Not sure if you would give ourselves like 100% spot on correct, but I think we were close. I think we were very close with this one. You could
Well,
see
look,
where
we'll
we
leave
were
this
coming
one up
from.
to the comments. Let
Leave
us
it,
know
yeah.
who you think has been the most improved out of these two. Because, like Jack said, you've got one that started off the season brilliantly. Then had one that had a great middle of the season. And they both had shit ends to the campaign. So,
Mm.
let us know in the comments, guys, who wins that one.
This
Oh,
is also
I'm
another
on
one we
number
gotta
one.
leave to the comments too, Dave. I think we might as well let
Yeah.
them decide this one. Young player of the season. As much as I loved my prediction with Udogie, I might give it to Sarr because I think he showed more consistency. You think of probably fewer mistakes because it's so harsh on Udogie, but we are talking about
Mm,
great seasons. And when you're comparing two great seasons, you have to start going nitty and gritty, kind of nitpick some things. And Udogie did
mm.
have some mistakes, I think, in some high profile games this year that led to goals conceded, had, I think, one or two red card incidents, if I'm remembering correctly. Sarr, yes, maybe once or twice you could have thought of some not as great of games from him, but he probably had actually the most consistent season of any of the midfielders, actually. And there was so much more experience with Bentancur, Basuma, Madison, yet he probably had the debatably the best season out of all of them, Pop Mop to Sarr. So, Dave, I might give it to Sarr.
Look, I think Jack Adoji was absolutely incredible this season. That guy locked up that left hand side for a vast majority
For
of this
sure.
season. Unfortunately, the last sort of 5 or 6 games before his injury, there was a lot more goals coming down that side than what we were used to, maybe starting to tail off. But I don't put it all on him because, to be fair, he hasn't been able to be dipped out and rested at times like Papa Matasar was, which does help you maintain your form, help you maintain the consistency. When you're tired, the manager can dip you out, bring the next guy in. Adoji wasn't afforded that luxury. Sarr was. However, from where Papa Matasar was last season, which was an absolutely nobody amongst many fans, many will put him down as a flop signing under Paratici. I said to you, I said off what back of what I've seen off that guy at AC Milan in the San Siro. This kid's got the cojones, and he'll get into the team over the course of the season. And in my prediction, I said he'll be a mainstay in that midfield come the end of the season, and that's exactly what he has been. And like you said, to displace some of the other guys that's been around him, the likes of Højbjerg, Lo Celso has been given another opportunity. Skip, who started off the season in the pecking order ahead of him, an absolute incredible campaign for Papa Matasar. But look,
A
although
banger
I
of a
feel
pick.
like the two predictions are absolutely spot on for both of us, we'll leave it up to the comments. You
Leave
decide.
it up to the comments again, but I think Dave had an absolute banger there, me personally. And also with some of the logic that he just used there that he must have used in the video as well. Top three goal scorers. Wow, Dave. I was so close here. So close. I believe Richarlison finished with, in all competitions, the second most goals and assists. And I think he finished with the second most goals in all competitions. Brennan Johnson, or no, it might have been Kulusevski. That's
Kulusevski's
actually
third.
Kulusevski's third. So I might win this one, I think, with top three goal scorers. Looks like.
Well, let me just have a quick browse. You went Son, Richarlison, Madison. Do you know what? Yeah, because you put Richarlison in second, you win it. Fair play to you.
We
Look,
had
I believe,
similar logic, though. It looks like,
yeah.
unless you watch back the video, and of course, Dave did much better research ahead of this than I did by watching back the video. I assume we had similar logic.
No, we did. Like when it came to Sonny, we both agreed. Look, he's the
Yeah,
next guy.
obvious.
He's been our top goal scorer after Harry Kane for years, so it's going to be him. And then we sort of, it wasn't very popular at the time. Many people doubted us actually when you go and look at the
Probably, yeah.
comments about Richarlison coming, in the top three goal scorers. They said he wouldn't hit their numbers. So maybe he surprised a lot of people in that regard. Son finished on 17, Richarlison finished on 12, and then Kulusevski, despite a lot of people slating him, he actually weirdly finishes third top goal scorer with 8 goals.
Yeah.
Madison finishes all the way down in 6 behind Romero and Brennan Johnson. So those people maybe on the fan show, Jack, who said, Madison was flop of the season, maybe you could argue that with the way that people go on about Brennan Johnson, more like me, the way I go on about Brennan Johnson, Madison had a worse campaign than him.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
look,
I
Madison, you
agree.
owe us a good season next season. How dare you let us down?
Yeah, you're making us even focus on Johnson more than you by the looks of things, poor guy. But yeah, maybe a banger from myself there with that one. Last and certainly not least, save the bangers for last here. Player of the season. Now, listen, another one I think we should probably leave to the comments though, because
Mm,
I definitely make my case for Romero. I'd love to watch back my video and see what I actually said originally about it. This season, he is my candidate for player of the season. I would give it, and this is no bias or anything, me looking back at my pick or anything. I've said it consistently. Romero, I do think, had the best season of anyone. I think he showed to be a leader. He showed that he can actually play out from the back in possession. We sometimes saw that under Conte, but it wasn't really fully utilized and seen until we've
mm.
been, kind of playing under Ange Postecoglou. The guy's easily, I think, probably the best passing center back, if not one of the best in the Premier League right now and in Europe. The guy has such an unbelievable ability to start moves from the back line. He's really improved his defensive areas when it comes to heading, clearances, his bravery. He's also channeled and sort of toned down some of that aggression, still uses it, but uses it in the right manners. I mean, Romero had maybe one or two shaky moments this season, but the guy, absolute just bull. I mean, just a bull of a man. And I'd give it to him. And could have been one of our top scorers if he didn't hit the post 10,000 times.
Do you know what, Jack? I look back at this and I was giggling to myself because I actually agreed with you that Romero probably will be up there for player of the season. It would be fighting out between him and Son. But I remember I went with Son because I laughed because I was like, defenders never win player of the season, no matter how good they are. It's all about the forward guys who score the goals and assist goals and stuff like that. But I'm actually going to concede here. Look, I think Son, I respect what he's done this campaign. He's carried this team, especially going forward, out wide, up front, to the best of his ability. But I'm going to concede here. I'm actually going to give you Romero because coming out the back end of the season, Romero is actually my player of the season. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. Let's not forget, this was a guy coming into this season where people were questioning his loyalty towards the football club.
Very true.
They were just waiting to pounce on him. He had a stellar 10 games to the start to the season. And we were saying that, look, people are just ready to pounce on his next mistake. That one against Chelsea, everyone took referee side and Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville's side over Romero's. And it's since then they've changed their mind on that red card. And that's the only blip you can really actually put on him this season in terms of, he's answered the critics, about can he stay on the pitch, for a good run of games? Can he tone down can he challenge aggression in the right way? Can he become a lot better in the air? And I'd argue he's done all of them things. And not only that, he's improved, no doubt, on the football. At times, there was games where Sonny wasn't really getting going up front. I've seen Romero just pick up the ball, run into midfield, play a 1-2, and make a run in behind himself. Well, he literally takes the grain by the nuts and says, okay, no one else wants to do it, I'll go and do it. And I have the utmost respect for them sort of players. So for me, I'm actually going to concede. I'm going to give you that, Romero. But I did say it would be between them two. I just went with Sonny. Look, some would argue 17 goals, 10 assists by Sonny. Good campaign and all. But it's just me personally. I'm going to concede. I'll give you it.
When you see a guy with 17 goals and then the next person is at 12 and then the next person below that is 8, you really think, gosh, if Sonny didn't exist, it would have been a very different season for us. Would have been a very different season. But I agree with you.
And we're talking about fans are talking about selling them.
Oh my gosh, it's scary. It makes me shivers down my spine, of worries. But Romero, I'd agree with you. He showed to be just a bull of a man and took the scruff. Yeah, the game by the scruff of the neck. That really is what he did. There's so many games. We felt like we wanted 11 Romeros, and we felt like we would have been better off in games if we just had 11 Romeros on the pitch. So exactly right. But I think that's it, Dave. I'm looking forward to watching back that video, though, and we'll probably try to upload some of those clips of some of our bangers, some of our howlers of those predictions. Let us know if you'd be interested in that, everybody. Look out for that in the socials as well as on YouTube. Please, again, smash that like button for us if you did enjoy this video and this reaction. Let us know which of these predictions were your favorite, which of these revisionist kind of comments that we've just made now was also maybe your favorite as well. Dave, unless I'm missing something?
No, look, I did get some completely wrong. It just goes to show how rattled I was when we sold Harry Kane, how much it really affected me. I wasn't even thinking straight, but this summer, I'm pretty sure I'll get a lot of my predictions spot on for next season.
You can barely breathe. You can barely see. But we'll leave you there, everybody. Come on, you Spurs. In the Big Ant we trust. We'll see you next time. Tifo watch along today if you are watching this back today. And we'll see you later. Everywhere we go.